In a ruthless mood of righteous resolve, Pedro forced his young virgin sister out of the castle in her nightgown, armed only with a holy book, the covers of which were made from the wood of the ark. The ever-thoughtful Pedro also provided her with a magical scarf adorned with celestial formulas to ward off demons while she contemplated the infinite alone in the wilderness. Thus equipped, the barefoot, scantily clad maiden made her way into the rugged hill country in the dead of night. A randy shepherd leaped on her out of the darkness and sought to have his way with her. But when he touched the cover of the book, he fell dead at her feet. Shivering in terror, she fled further into the mountains, and finally seeking refuge deep in a cave, but she soon discovered that she was not alone. Rebecca had invaded the den of a nursing she-bear and her cubs. The enraged mother bear attacked the poor girl, but before the savage claws could rip Rebecca's bodice and maul her bounteous bosom, the magic book again intervened, and Mrs. Bruin fell dead in a furry heap at the Virgin's dainty feet. Now, all this exertion had made Rebecca rather hungry, and seeing as how the dead she-bear was still warm, our Goldilocks fought off the baby bears and suckled on her deceased mother bear's teeth until she was satisfied. Now, this is a scene that the Polish film crew prudently left to our imagination. Now, following this bizarre episode, Rebecca experienced a series of visions in which the she-bear returned to life, vomiting forth her brother's familiar spirit, Nemeral, who spoke to her in the language of the Grigori, Enochian, but probably not the D. and Kelly version. Nemeral's cryptic oration preceded the arrival of the prince of the Grigori, Samanas. Now, this is probably Samyaza, chief of the 200 fallen angels. And it says, see Ethiopia and Enoch, and also beyond Lemuria. Samyaza inspired Rebecca to embrace her beauty and her destiny, and she emerged from the cave, stretched out her scarf to form a magic circle about herself, and read aloud the terrible formulas from her holy book. She then experienced an awesome quickening of power and knowledge, making her ready and willing to summon her heavenly bridegrooms when the sun would again enter the sign of Gemini. Back at the castle, and in her brother's good graces, she resumed her magical studies and practice. Gazing into the mirror, she saw two beautiful, naked, gossamer-winged angelic figures standing behind her reflected image. But when she turned away from the glass to look over her shoulder, they were not there. Rebecca got a book of poetry by Idris, and Idris is the Arabic equivalent of Enoch, and took it with her to the great hall of the castle. And there was a 12-foot-tall standing mirror of Venetian make. She stood before the mirror and read aloud a poem about creation, the creation of the world, and once again, the Gemini twins appeared before her in the glass. And although they were both nude, they each kept one pair of their translucent wings crossed over their private parts. But when she began to read the poem about the fallen angels making love to the daughters of men, they began to unveil themselves. Then Rebecca's modesty compelled her to cover her eyes, whereupon her spectral lovers kissed her hands. And then the great mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. The sun had left the sign of Gemini, and they had departed. Well, now, I read the Saragossa manuscript way back before I ever got really seriously into magic, back when I was in college. And this is maybe one of the clues to why I ended up, discovering what I did about mirror magic, because there's mirror magic all through the Saragossa manuscript. It's probably, and I think looking back on it, is probably one of the things that made me realize that the magic mirror was really one of the keys to magic. Now, there's a lot more of that Saragossa manuscript to come, but for a little bit of humor, let's skip over to the 1,000 sayings of the Master Goo. Now, the Master Goo back some years ago, when the internet wasn't quite as sophisticated as it is now. We had a news group called Alt-Magic. Some of you may remember that. And I was one of the regulars on Alt-Magic until finally the trolls took it over and it deteriorated. But during that time, I created a character called the Master Goo. And the Master Goo was a sort of an Eastern sage, and he would come up with these various things. And so I decided I'd collect some of Goo's best aphorisms for the seventh grade this time. So here are some sayings from the Master Goo. The dog of God is a god among dogs because dog is God spelled backwards. The true master may not know all the answers, but he should know most of the questions. One may see the flower outside the closed window, but not smell its fragrance. Different paths up the holy mountain lead upward to the same summit, but each climber believes that the peak he strives for is higher than that of his brother upon the adjacent path. A lesser man may torment a dog, but only a fool teases a tiger. There was once a would-be Messiah in Libya who trained parrots to fly about and proclaim him God. Whereupon a rival Mahdi coached another flock of birds to declare the first Messiah a fraud. A third anchorite, a true holy man, instructed 100 parrots to announce that everyone was God. And that is why today there are no parrots in Libya. Knowing how to repair a current wheel is knowledge. Waiting for the rain to stop before repairing it is wisdom. The greatest swordsman draws first and cuts once. Then there was a true believer charged with finding a natural habitat for a cage of squirrels caught in the city. He transported the little animals all the way up into the tall timber before releasing them, because he recalled that it was written, "Thou shalt not cast thy squirrels before pine." He who contemplates the fly on his nose may fail to see the fly in his soup. Now, so that's a little sample of Goo's wisdom. Now, the other thing that we have that we could briefly entertain you with is an article called "The Dark Origins of the Werewolf Legend." Now, if we open this up with Kurt Siodmak's little poem that he had in his original 1941 in The Wolfman. So even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers at night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright.